Hi, my name is Sherry Sloan, and my goal today is to introduce you to Designer Gravit by working on this basic project. This project will not give you all of the tools in Designer Gravit. This is just an introductory project just to get you used to using designer software. So to create this project, you're going to go into Designer Gravit. Before we do it, just observe that there are a couple things you need to gather in order to be successful with this project. You will see a card appear at the top right corner of your screen. One is to show you how to gather large images because you need several large images. Another card right now will show you how to get a color palette. So those are things that you need to have before we start out. And you'll also need some sort of quote or Bible verse or whatever to put on your poster as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and open Designer Gravit. And then I'm going to start a new project. New design. My width is going to be 1800 and my height is going to be 1200. And that means I will have a wide landscape poster. Now it's hard to see my background here, so I'm going to click the Z key. And Z, you'll see that I now turn into a magnifying glass. And if I hold down my Alt key on a Mac, it's your Option key. And click again, I am zooming out so you can see my whole background there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our things together that we need. So in our area here, we're going to start placing the things, the images that we downloaded. So go to File, then Import, then Place Image. You need to not only place the images that you downloaded, you're also going to need your color palette. So there's my color palette. And I'm going to go ahead and also grab all of my images. Image, place image, and so I'm going to just keep on going through and placing my images, and that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to place between 6 and 9 images. Okay, you'll see that I have gathered my images. You'll see that they're all on top of each other. I'm going to start rearranging them a little bit, but I'm also going to label them a bit. That will help me as I am manipulating my images. You'll notice my cursor is still a magnifying glass. To change it so that I can move my images around, you can either come up to the pointer tool here, or you can click the letter V on your keyboard and it becomes a pointer tool. And notice how we have several layers here. I want you to think of your images as each being on a piece of glass. So right here we are working with our rainbow image. So I'm going to rename it just so we know what's what here. I'm going to call it rainbow. And I'm going to make my image smaller so I can work with it. So I'm going to hold my Shift key down. You must hold your Shift key down as you're making your images bigger and smaller. If you do not hold your Shift key down, your images will get distorted. I'll show you that again. I'm going to click on my image. I'm going to change, for me, I'm going to change the name of it by double-clicking on the other name. And I'm going to make my image smaller. This is an automatic save that Gravit does. Okay, so here's my garden image, and I'm going to make this smaller also. Again, I must hold my Shift key down. If I do not hold my Shift key down, my picture will get distorted. All right, let's do that again. Here's my Holy Bible one. I'm going to double click, change the name of it, hold my shift key down, and make it smaller. My wedding rings, hold my shift key down, make it smaller. Mama, hold my shift key down, make it smaller. My forest. Now, as I'm doing this, I want you to sort of look at how my photos are being stacked. Notice that my forest is under the Bible. My forest is under the mom. My forest is really under everything except the color palette. So that means that my layers, think of each one of these as being on a piece of glass. These are your different layers. So in order to affect that layer, you need to be clicked on that layer. And you can click on it over here, or you can click on the actual image here. For now, we're going to move the stuff out of our way because we really want to focus on, don't worry, we're going to come back to it because we need to put our background on here. So let's go ahead and grab our background. Don't worry, our stuff is still up there. So to put a background on here, we're going to draw a rectangle. So there's a shape tool here. The drop down will bring you to a rectangle. And to draw the rectangle, you just drag your mouse from one corner to the other. And now let's make it the correct color. So our color palette is here. Let's drag it on down. Now right now you can't see the color palette because it's under the rectangle. So let's bring the color palette to the top. And now my color palette is visible and you can see my rectangle. Click on the rectangle. Off to the right-hand side is your properties. So in your properties, you have a fill color. Right now your fill color is it's like a gray. We're going to click on the eyedropper that is right next to it and then choose a color from your color palette that you want for the background of your poster. I'm going to choose the lightest blue. Now, to make our rectangle not move around, because right now if we shift it over, it's going to move. Control Z is undo. I'm going to make it lock there in place by clicking here on the lock. Now I have my background and it's locked down. Now I can start gathering my images again and bring them on down. Now again, all of my images are below my rectangle. So let me put my rectangle to the bottom. Oops, it's locked right now. It's the easier way to do it is to bring the rectangle below everything. And now all of my images are on top and I'm still going to lock the rectangle. I'm still going to need my color palette, but I'm going to put it off to the edge for a couple minutes as I address each of my images. So let's start with the forest one. I need to put a frame around my image. So to put a frame around it, I need to click on my forest, and then off to the right, you'll see this borders thing. Click on borders, and you'll want to add a border. Oops, add a border. And our border is the number here. The larger the number, the thicker the border. I'm going to put in the number 10. That makes it 10 pixels wide. Right now it's black. I'm going to choose my eyedropper, have my eyedropper drag along, and I'm going to choose the very dark blue. And now my frame is the dark blue. Let me show you that again. Let me grab a different image. I'll grab the rainbow image. Notice how I'm just clicking on them over here and they sort of light up over there. So I'm going to do that again. I have my image here. And don't make your poster look all perfect yet. You have some other work to do on it first. So I do want a border. I'm going to add a border. And I want it to be 10. And I want to alter the color to this dark blue. So all of your borders should be the same color. Design is all about things being the same. I'm also not taking a lot of time actually designing my poster yet because I have to move a lot of things around still. I'm going to make this much smaller. Get out of my way. I just dragged my mouse over 2 images so I can work on them both. I dragged them both down together. I could conceivably drag my mouse over both of them like this. Now I have them both selected and I can edit both of them at the same time. I'll show you that. Click on borders. I'm going to add a border. I'm going to change this to 10. I'm going to grab my eyedropper and grab the dark blue, and now all of those borders are the same color, same thickness. And I have another picture of rings still. Same idea. Okay, if you're doing everything that you should be doing, let's just go over what your project should look like so far. You should have between 5 and 9 images, all quality images that you have found. You should also have a background, which is a rectangle. Your background color should be selected from your color palette, and your background should be locked down so it's not moving as you are trying to work. You should also have between 5 and 9 images. I have 6. And those images should all have a frame around them. It's also called a border. And that border should match the same on all of them. I used 10 pixels. And all of those border colors should come from your color palette. So the next step is we're going to put your name on here. So to put your name on here, notice how I have not even designed this poster yet. I haven't even started yet. So I'm going to just drag some of these out of the way just so that I have room to work. So this gives me some space to work. All of my images are still there, don't worry. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and type my name by using up here the type tool. If you want the shortcut, it's the letter T. So I'm going to type my name. Now look at how super tiny it is. Well, now I need to make my name bigger. But I just clicked away from my name. Now, how do I make it bigger? Well, I'm going to come over to where it says the word text here, make sure it's gray. And when I do that, now my property panel deals with my text. So first, let's make it nice and big so we can see it. I'm going to make it 150. Next, let's choose a font that's going to look good with that shadow. I think a nice thick font with thick lettering looks really kind of cool with the shadow. So I'm going to grab, this one's kind of cool. Yeah. All right. Actually doesn't really fit my personality much. Let me find one that fits my personality a little bit better. Here we go. There we go. There's my name. Nice thick lettering. And so now I'm going to change the color of my name to one of the colors from the color palette. Grab my eyedropper and make my little square hover over the color that I want my name to be. I'm going to again choose the dark blue. Now I'm going to make a shadow. And of course, with the software, they have the shadow already built in that you can put with your name. So go ahead and click on your name. Scroll on down to Effects and click on Drop Shadow. And here's where you can change what your shadow is going to look like. So here we have a 13 pixel shadow at the x-axis. And notice how now it goes down. So the bigger number here is when it goes down to the right. And then the color of your shadow should also come from your color palette. That didn't work out very nicely. Let's choose a different color. There. And now to get a nice idea of this up close, let's go ahead and zoom in. That's the Z key, magnifying glass. That actually looks quite nice. So I now have my name and my shadow, and both colors came from my color palette. To zoom out, hold your Alt key down on a PC or your Option key on a Mac. All right, now let's go ahead and put your name in a box, because if we see over here, we see that we have your name, shadow in a box in a frame. We also have your text here. Let me grab my text next. I'm going to grab this Bible verse. Control C is copy. And then I'm going to add in some text. Control V is paste. Oh, I guess I just put it there. So let's go ahead and change this font because it's not exactly what I want. Make it much smaller because it's way too big. Notice how I just clicked on my key and just sort of move these arrows down. You can do exact numbers as well. And then I'm going to move this over. Okay, let's go ahead and I want to look at this closer. So I'm going to hit my Z key, zoom in, and let's get rid of this other one. I need to be able to move it around. I need my pointer key, which is the V key, or you can click the pointer at the top. Let's get rid of this your here. So I clicked it once, and I can either right click and, well, actually, I can either click it and press the delete key on my keyboard, or I can hit it here and then press the garbage can. All right, let's finish this up. Okay, so we now have our verse. If you want this centered in this box, here is the center key right here under alignment. And again, we need our colors to match. So grab your color picker, eyedropper, and click on a color from your color palette. And there we go. We basically have everything on our poster now that we are going to need for this project. So let's go ahead and just finish it up. This part does take a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and put a frame and a box around your name. That is going to be a rectangle. Grab a rectangle, cover your name with it. Change the color of the rectangle to one of the colors from the color palette. And then we need to move it behind your name. And now it is behind your name. Now notice your shadow disappeared. That is because your shadow is the same color as the box. So I'm going to change the color of my box. There we go. Now I can see the shadow much better. And now I'm going to put a frame around the box. So that's a border again. And I'm going to grab a 10 border. And I'm going to change the color to one of the colors from my color palette. And now I have my name and the box and the border. Now I'm going to wind up moving this stuff around my screen. So I'm going to group my name, my border, my shadow, everything together. So that way as I move it around my poster, it stays all together. To do that, I need to drag my mouse over both of these pieces. I know I have them both chosen because I can see over here that I have text and rectangle chosen. If you don't want to get your text confused, you can rename it again. So you know what's what. So I want my text and my rectangle to be grouped together. Again, I drag my mouse over both pieces. They're both gray. I'm going to right click on them and I'm going to group the selection. I could also press Control G to group them. Now when I move them around my screen, they'll be stuck together. All right, so let's go ahead and start arranging. To arrange, I'm going to zoom out. This is another way you can zoom out. And I'm just going to start moving my images around on my screen. Now, sometimes I might wind up letting some things overlap. And I think that that's not a problem whatsoever. When you make things overlap, do realize that there's some stuff on your poster that is not necessarily all that important. For example, this right-hand corner of this mom and the baby. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. Move the color palette for now. So I'm going to focus on this mom and the baby because I know that I can cover a portion of this without taking away from the story here. Again, use your shift key every time you make an image bigger or smaller. And notice how none of my images touch the edge. You need to have a little bit of room on the edge. That's called a bleed. That is for the printer, just in case they mess up a little, it won't cut off anything important. So nothing important should be along the edge of your poster. So let's figure out what can we put on top of this in this corner. That looks nice. What can we put here? So this part of the project does take, for me, the longest because you really are just sort of figuring out, it's like a puzzle. How can we make all of these images fit on here, have them still look nice? Now your goal is to align everything. Hold your shift key down every time you make something bigger or smaller. Right now, my image of my rings is exactly the same height as my other image, and it's lined perfectly along the bottom. So this might be a nice place to put this image. Because again, I'm not going to be covering anything important. Shift. Oops. There we go. Now it's starting to come together. Move my name over here. I'm going to keep playing around with these, and I'm just moving them around, holding my shift key down every time, and I'll come back to you as soon as I'm done. Okay, let's go ahead and look at my poster here. I've basically got everything together. I made some decisions about overlapping that I'm comfortable with. I'm not overlapping anything that's all that important. I am looking at my alignment here on the right-hand side. I see that I have my image not exactly lined up there, so let me go ahead and fix that. Remember, this part is the part that takes the longest because you are looking to have everything aligned perfectly. I actually want to move, there's something I can show you. I want to actually move all three of these to the left a little bit because I'm looking at my margin over here and I want my margin on the other side to be just about the same. So I'm going to move them over just a little bit. I dragged my mouse over all three pieces and I'm able to move all three of them at once. Okay, I'm going to mess with this text a little bit. And I kind of want a shadow on my text also. So I'm going to, with my text box chosen, come on over to drop shadow. And I'm going to add a drop shadow to this as well. That's looking pretty nice. And now I'm going to put up here a little symbol. And we can get those from the library. We can get different icons, we can get different stickers. So I'm just going to find a sticker that I like and throw it on there. Something that is kind of like me as a person, fits my personality. I guess I'll choose the heart. Now the cool thing about these is every one of these colors can be changed as well. So I can grab my color palette again. Here it is. And I can change the color of each one of these hearts. So I can go to my inner one and I can click the eyedropper and make that dark blue. And then my next layer. and change that color. So you can make your little symbols match your color palette as well. In fact, you should. My last one. Oops. Let me zoom in a little bit for this one. They've done something different here with this one. I can't change the red for some reason, but the rest of them I changed. Compound pad. Okay, well, I guess I can't change the red. I'm sure there's a way to change it, but that's okay. So I'm going to zoom out. That's my Z key, and then Alt or Option. And I'm going to move my color palette out of the way. I have my heart all together, and I'm going to hold my Shift key down, make that a little bit smaller. And there is my poster completely done with my name. I have other text. All of my images are aligned perfectly. All of my images are beautiful images, large, crisp images. Everything matches my color palette. Now I just need to export, File, Export, and export as a JPEG. And then you're done. Go ahead and name it whatever you want. And that's how you make this poster. Those are the basic tools of Designer Gravit. I will show you further tools in a different tutorial that will show you how to use all the drawing tools as well. So a very basic project to show you the basic tools of Designer Gravit.